everyone. Welcome. I hope everyone has been enjoying this morning so far. Let's get this session kick-started. So creating a visualization is a powerful way to tell a story. However, what's the point of storytelling if there's no audience? And similarly, you may have created an awesome and insightful dashboard, but would it be a shame if you cannot share it with your audience effectively? My name is James, and here with me, Angus. We're software engineers from the MongoDB Atlas Charts team, and today we're going to take you through how the recently launched dashboard embedding feature is going to help you to share your visualization from Atlas Charts easily and securely. So before we get started, we just wanted to get a quick show of hands just to see where everyone's at in terms of your prior experience with Atlas Charts and the embedding SDK. So could you put your hands up if you have used Atlas Charts before? Okay, thank you. That's about a third of the room. Yeah, thank you. Now hands up if you actually used embedding SDK to embed a charts in the past. Cool, I can see three, four hands. Thank you. And lastly, anyone has used embedding SDK to embed a dashboard before? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, good that, oh, cool. I'm actually curious, because what sort of brings you here, and if you don't mind, like, in terms of this session, what are you trying to get out from the session? Yeah, great to hear that. So, yeah, so for those of you who haven't used Atlas Charts or the embedding SDK, don't you worry, we got you covered today. And for the folks who may have already got some experience with Atlas Charts or the embedding SDK, hopefully some of the content today can offer you as a good refresher as well. So here's going to be the agenda for today. We're going to start off with an overview of what is Atlas Charts and what is embedding SDK, just to get everyone onto the same page before we move on to the tutorial session where we're going to spend the majority of time on today. And Angus is going to take you through a few challenges, use cases, and we're all going to write out some code together just to tackle those problems. So hopefully it's going to be lots of fun. We are going to have about 5 minutes just before the tutorial starts to take any questions you may have. And then we're going to have another Q&A at the end of the tutorial as well. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the first agenda item, which is what is Atlas Charts. So firstly, Atlas is a hosted MongoDB as a service. And Charts, as you can see on the orange box on the right-hand side, it's another tab inside the Atlas platform. It's a tool to create visualization for your data in Atlas. And here is another picture just to show you what a dashboard looks like inside the Atlas Charts app. So at this point, maybe some of you wonder, okay, why do I want to use Atlas Charts? Especially given there are tons of visualization tools out there. What's special about Atlas Charts? So I'm going to show you that there's actually quite a few compelling reasons on why Atlas Charts should be your number one option when it comes to creating a visualization for your data in Atlas. And the first benefit of using Atlas Charts to create your visualization is that it has native integration with the Atlas platform. So what does that mean? Well, generally speaking, when you start to create a visualization, the very first thing you wanted to do is try to link up to a data source and loading those data into the tool you're using. Well, having the native integration with Atlas means that creating and linking a data source in Atlas Charts is a piece of cake. And I'm just going to play a short video just to show you what that process looks like. Oh, perfect. Now I need your password. Yeah, thanks. Cool. In this video, we can see we're pressing the add data source, and immediately it loads up the available Atlas data sources. Here we're selecting the cluster 0. As we go next, it will basically read the cluster and display all the available data sources. And in this case, we're going to create a connection to the Airbnb dataset. And that's it. So now this data source, it will be readily available for you to use when creating a visualization. The second benefit is that Atlas Charts also understands document model. And what do we mean by that is it basically can automatically detect the data type of each field that presents in the collection. And it will also then present you with data manipulation options. So again, I'm going to play a short video. And in this video, we're actually going to utilize the data source we just created in the previous video, which is the Airbnb dataset. And we are going to create a simple column chart, which will show basic number of Airbnb properties that supports a certain amenity. So I'll just play that. So as we add the chart, we're getting to the chart builder. As you can see, we're selecting the data source we've created previously. Select the column chart, drag the amenity to the x-axis and ID to the y-axis, as we're just interested in the count. So I'm going to stop the video right here, just to explain a bit what's going on. So on the left-hand side, the field panel, we can see all the different fields that presents in this collection. And the icon on the left also indicates the type of field it is. So for example, we have string, we have number, we have date. If we look at the amenity, it also has a square bracket on the right, which is to indicate as an array. And if we look at this card here, amenity field card, inside the x-axis channel, we can see that also presents options to doing data manipulation. So in this case, we wanted to flatten out the array by choosing the unwind array option. So keep playing. So now a chart is created, and we can limit the result as well. And with no surprise, Wi-Fi came up as the first. Cool. Let's get out of here. So in summary, creating a visualization in Atlas Charts is very fast and easy because there's minimal setup required when it comes to the typical data extraction, transformation, and loading process. Also, the native integration into the Atlas platform and the ability to understand the document model has also made creating a visualization much easier, as you've seen in the previous video. There is something that I didn't show, which is that it also comes with options to configure users and permissions. That means you can also call the same dashboard with another team member or colleague. You can also share the dashboard with your intended audience in a secure manner as well. And speaking of sharing, it's a good segue to get into the next section, which is what is dashboard embedding. So before we talk about what is dashboard embedding, I wanted to firstly talk about this concept of embedding in the context of web development. So generally speaking, it means to integrate a third-party content or external content into another website or application. And if we talk about this in the context of Atlas Charts, it basically means to integrate the visualization you've created inside your Charts app into another website or application. And this could be, say, you're running a blog site and you're creating a new blog post, and you really wanted to share this visualization you've created in your Atlas Charts to your audience. So instead of taking a screenshot, you can actually embed the visualization straight into your blog post, so that not only it's not static, it also will come with the latest data. So it will help to get your blog posts to stay relevant as well over time. Another example might be that, say, you're creating maybe you're maintaining a web application, and you wanted to develop this reporting feature that to display certain, let's say, usage data to end user. Instead of reinventing the wheel and creating all the visualization modules and pages, so you can also leverage embedding to embed those visualizations straight away into your application. Okay, so here's just another slide just to show you what those different use cases might be. So whether it's stock market or weather. So now we've learned a bit about what is embedding and what is dashboard embedding to some extent. How can we actually embed an entire dashboard? So it comes in with different flavors. I'm going to give you a very quick summary as you're going to get your hands dirty very soon with them. So the first way to embed a dashboard is through iframe snippet. So it's a simple two-step approach with the first step being just configuring the desired embedding settings from the Atlas Charts UI, which you can see on the left. After you're done with the setting configurations, a iframe snippet will be automatically generated below, where you just simply copy and paste that into your HTML code. And that's it. The second way is embedding through SDK. So the advantage of using that is it comes with more customization options and it gives you a bit more control, but it does mean that you would need to have a bit more setups and coding involved. So to summarize that, it's dashboard embedding is quite simple to use, especially if you get down the path of iframe snippet. It also comes in with security features. So if you do want to secure the dashboard embedded into your application to only authorized audience, you can do that. So as of today, we support authentication providers such as Google Authentication, authentication via app services, which is previously known as Realm, and this custom JWT as well. So with that, that's the end of the overview section. As promised, we're gonna have like 5 minutes to take any questions, if there's any. Otherwise, we can also get into the tutorials. Yes.
I will pass the mic around.
Yes.
Is there any way to handle multi-tenanting? Like if you want to separate different customers' data and add that to the security model?
Yeah, so that would be done from the Atlas side. So from a data side.
But from if I wanted to, so my use case is I have like a B2B application and I'd like to show each of those customers some of their own data that's in there. Could I do that?
There are ways that you can say, let's say, it depends on what is your underlying data stored. So maybe say if you're, I'm sensing that maybe your underlying data is actually stored in like one cluster.
Yeah, it's like a multi-tenanted, like there'll be an attribute for which tenant it is.
So you can utilize like this filters and injected filters, which we're actually going to touch a bit on in the tutorial.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully that answers it, but otherwise happy to take more questions later as well.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, how are customers billed for charts? Are they? Is it included in your Atlas, or how does billing work?
How does the building work? You mean?
Yes.
So the Atlas Charts app, it is part of, as I've shown in one of the tab here. So we look at this. It is another tab inside the Atlas. So once you log in, so say you've created an Atlas account and you logged in, the Charts tab will be there already. So once you press on it, if you're first-time user, then there's a activate process, which take maybe a couple minutes. But as soon as you've done that, you can start to use charts.
Okay. And then is there a certain version level of MongoDB that it requires, or like version 6, or
No.
previous
It
versions?
can be any version.
Okay.
It's also free to use up until a value, like a data transfer value.
1 gig is a free tier, and after 1 gig, we charge based on your data transfer usage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we probably have time to take one more question.
There is more time afterwards.
Yeah.
Can we embed this into the Confluence pages?
Confluence pages. That's an interesting question.
Or that could be enhancement.
I don't think we've tried it.
I haven't tried it.
Yeah.
So we create some kind of. iframe. Okay.
Yeah. If it supports an iframe snippet, then you can.
It should. Yeah.
So okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so we kind of around at the 5 minutes, so I don't want to keep everyone hanging. So I kind of sense that everyone's very excited to get started onto the tutorial. So I'm going to pass on to Angus. So I'll be around the room. So if anyone gets stuck or anything, just raise your hands up. I'll come and help you out. If you're a bit faster in some of the exercises, yeah, please help out your peers next to you. We wanted this session to be highly collaborative and interactive as well, so everyone getting the most out of it. Cool. Over to you, man.
Now you can hear my voice. Hello, hello. Yes. Nice. Okay, okay, cool. All right. I think it's been like 4 minutes. Anyone still setting up or having issues? I can also go along with you as well. So, like I said before, there's a bunch of links. Don't touch anything yet. Don't click on anything. I'll go through each little step. Some of these links won't work yet because we're going to go through each step. And yeah, so let's just get started. Seems like you're all ready and set up. So let's get back into the presentation. Ooh, there we go. So I'd like to welcome you all to this fake company called Chartico. Imagine that you're a developer. And if you are a developer, then just keep on imagining that you're part of this fake company. With Chartico, we're basically a sales company. We're an Atlas customer. And what better usage of Atlas is, we use Atlas Charts to visualize data that's within our Atlas cluster. And with Chartico, we've already created a dashboard using Atlas Charts. So let me show you an example. So this is the dashboard that we've created to display all the data that's inside our cluster. So it's just a bunch of sensitive customer data of sales items that we've sold using different purchasing methods and so on and so forth. And with this, imagine that you've been put onto a team, and within each development team, there's basically a designer and a product manager, and you're the sole developer creating a dashboard and embedding it into web pages as well. So as your first task in this job, you've been tasked with, from the product manager, that you want to share this sales data dashboard that I just showed you via some sort of public link to your company stakeholders. Now, this first task, you all can't actually follow along yet. I'm just giving you a little, like a little teaser. Because just to save some time, I haven't invited you all into this project or organization so that you can actually physically manipulate this dashboard. However, I do want to show you how easy and quick it is just to share a dashboard that you've just created via some sort of public link. So say I've got this dashboard that's been created. On the top right, I can click on this share button. On the share button, I then see this modal, click on this public link tab, and then click on this toggle to allow anyone with this link can view. And with this link, there's this URL. And if I copy that URL and then paste it into the browser, I should be able to see this dashboard publicly. So if I let the settings change, just bear with me, there we go. And go into a different tab and click on this link, we should be able to see the dashboard that we just saw before. And I can share this around with anyone as well. If you go into that gist file that you went on to actually set up your profile, to set up your development environment, so back here, if you click on that link, you too can also access this publicly linked dashboard and have a look around the data, play around with it as well. And it is also interactive too, where you can actually get into the data as well. So there we go. So that's it. That's the first task. As your job at Chartico, you're feeling happy and proud. You go back to the product manager. With this solution, I've got this public link that we can share to our company stakeholders, and the product manager is happy. But like all product managers, they want more features, more requirements. So they've told you that another team at Chartico are working on an admin web page that they have developed in-house, and they want to actually embed this sales data dashboard inside that web page. Now, the easiest way to do that, like what James said, is through an iframe snippet. So in order to get this iframe snippet code from Atlas Charts, I'll show you how to get the snippet first, and I'll tell you where to embed, where to paste that snippet for. So if we go back to the Atlas Charts UI, go into this More menu, then click on Embed. You'll be treated with the dashboard embedding settings modal, I'll need to enable it for unauthenticated access, and I need to select the embedding method. So in this case, I want to embed it via an iframe. And with this iframe, I can actually toggle some options. So maximum data age to be 1 minute, 30 minutes. If I want the color theme to be light or dark, I can change these options. And whatever I change these options will reflect on this iframe snippet. So all I need to do is actually copy this iframe snippet and then paste it into my HTML code. Now, I know I can't copy and share this iframe snippet. So like before, I've actually also grabbed this, I've pasted this iframe snippet inside this gist code. So if you can all just copy this iframe snippet inside the gist, so just Command C or Control C or whatever, and we go into your development environment. So in this case, I'm going to use a code sandbox. So in this code sandbox, I'm just going to let it run, compile, and stuff. So this is what you should see if you have your code sandbox set up. And on the left, you'll be able to see the files that are inside this project. So this is kind of mimicking what a developer would see as well. And I'll go into what each file does later on. But if you could all go into the index.html file and scroll all the way down, you should see a little comment that says task 2, paste iframe snippet here. So all I need to say, I've already copied the iframe snippet from the GitHub gist. So if you can just paste that iframe snippet there, you should automatically just see the embedded dashboard rendered inside the custom Chartico admin web page that we've created. Sometimes it does take time because Code Sandbox is a bit slow. And if you do run into some rendering issues with Code Sandbox, feel free to just refresh the button here, not just Command R. And once you've embedded the iframe snippet, I would recommend just Command S or Control S to save. So that way you fork the project. And if you do accidentally close the tab, you can go back and actually see your progress, see your changes still. So like I said before, if you've got any rendering issues, just click on this top left. But with that, I've embedded a dashboard as simple as that, and those are the two simplest ways. However, James did say that there are different ways of embedding a dashboard. So with this solution, I go back to the product manager with this solution. They're also very happy with this now. However, the designer, they're not very happy. They want more customizations to this sales data dashboard and inside this Chartico admin web page. And some things that they have pointed out is two things. So the first thing that they would like to have, so if I close this and just make this a little bit bigger, just refresh. The Code Sandbox environment is a bit, doesn't really like me that much. But if we let this load and scroll to the very bottom right, you should see a MongoDB attribution logo. The designer doesn't want this because, we're Chartico. We don't want MongoDB logo shown inside the Chartico webpage. So we want to hide that. I'll teach you that later. And the second option that the designer brought out was that they want to be able to have a dark theme mode also reflected onto the embedded dashboard. So let's get started. So in order to do this, we need to actually reset our environment that we just did. So with that iframe snippet, we need to delete it again. So that way we can actually embed a dashboard using the SDK. So if we all just delete the iframe snippet, I'll then run through all the files inside this project. So there's an HTML file that you just tinkered with. We won't touch that anymore. However, we do need to go inside this SRC, the source folder. And inside this source folder, there's 4 files in there. The only file that we really need to worry about is this index.js file that all the code that we'll be changing is inside this file. I'll probably touch on the authenticate.js file later on when we talk about authenticated embedded dashboards. And one thing I do want to highlight is this package.json file where we've already added the chart embedding SDK as a dependency. And also we're using Parcel as the bundler for this application. But for all intents and purposes, we really need to only worry about this index.js file. So if we go into this file, we need to actually utilize the package. So we need to import the charts embedding SDK. So we can do that with import charts embed SDK, and then we say from, and from what package, and that's the @MongoDB.js/charts embed DOM. It's a mouthful, but it should give you an autocorrect, and you should be able to press enter, and it'll just autofill that line. So with that, we've imported that package into this file. So I'll go a bit slow so you all can follow along. Next up, underneath the task 3 comment, we need to actually instantiate this package. So to do that, we need to create a new variable called SDK. We can do that by doing a const SDK. Let that equal to new charts embed SDK. So we're creating a new instance of the package. And even if we do this, we also need to provide it some options. So the option that we need to provide it first is some sort of base URL. And what this base URL is saying, it's basically telling the charts library what charts tenant do we want to talk to. So inside the GitHub gist, I've also provided a base URL and a dashboard ID. We can also grab that from the Atlas UI from the dashboard embedding settings dialog by going to the JavaScript SDK as the method. And then the base URL here and the dashboard ID is provided here too. So what I've done here is I've copied this and I've pasted it inside the GitHub gist. So if you can all just underneath task 3 and then go back to your development environment and then paste that as your base URL. You've now told charts, okay, I want to use this, this charts tenant. Next, we need to actually create a dashboard. So to create a dashboard, we need to tell the SDK, we need to utilize the method createDashboard with this SDK. And from the tooltip, you can see that we need to pass in some embedding dashboard options. Just to make the code a lot easier to remember, I'm going to create a new variable called dashboard options, and pass it into createDashboard. And the one field that we need for this dashboard option is some sort of dashboard ID. And this ID specifically tells the library which dashboard I want to use inside that charts tenant. And like I said before, inside that GitHub gist, I provided the dashboard ID. So like before, I'm going to copy this dashboard ID and paste it back into the dashboard option. Once I've pasted it, you've noticed that nothing's rendering yet. That's because we haven't told the library, the package, where to actually render the dashboard. So inside this index.html, I've already stated that I want to place this dashboard inside this div element with an ID of dashboard, which is also where we pasted this iframe snippet from before. So if we go back to the index.js file, inside the render dashboard function, underneath the render dashboard here comment, let's place the dashboard and render it inside that div element. So the first thing we need to do to make it a lot easier is create a new variable called dashboard element, and we need to grab that element from that HTML document. So what better than to just use document get element by ID, and the ID that we stated before is just dashboard. So now we've got that element to render the dashboard onto that element. And to do that, it's as simple as dashboard.render. And inside the render function, we actually need to tell it, we need to pass it the dashboard element itself. And since the render function actually returns a promise, we need to actually await for this render. So we need to wait for this dashboard to render. So if I save and just refresh, we should be back at square one. But we do have more options and customizabilities that we can pass in using the dashboard options, and we can kind of code it a bit. So here you can see our dashboard has been embedded. And back to the original task where the designer said that they want to hide the attribution logo on the bottom right of the dashboard. To do this, we can pass in a dashboard option. And this dashboard option is actually called, so if you place a comma, let me close that up so it's a bit bigger for you all to see. Show attribution, and set it to false, and save. I can pass this option into dashboard options, and if I refresh the code sandbox, the attribution logo should actually not be there anymore. Will that load? And here we go, bottom right, no logo, amazing. And the second thing that the designer wanted was to have the dark mode to render also be shown inside the sales data dashboard. I've neatly wrote out a comment underneath inside toggle dark mode function. So underneath the task 3 comments, we first need to actually get the current theme. So to do that, we'll need to create a new variable called current theme. And we can grab the current theme by using the getTheme method. So we can do dashboard.getTheme. And like before, getTheme is actually a promise, and we want to wait for that value to return. So we need to also place a wait. And I'm going to console log this like a true developer, just to make sure that, that this current theme actually provides me with the correct theme. So if I just refresh code sandbox, sometimes it's a little bit iffy on the code changes that you make. So I open up this console, and when I press this button, it'll just say light. And that's correct because the dashboard is currently only light, in the light theme mode. So what we need to do is actually set the theme and just toggle the value based on its current theme. So to do that, we need to use a setTheme method. So dashboard.setTheme. And inside the setTheme, we need to provide a value of either dark or light as a string value. And I'm going to you could do this with an if statement, which I'll do now. So if the current theme is currently light, I'll want to set it to dark. Otherwise, if it is dark, set it to light. So this is just an if statement, but shortened into a single line. So if the current theme is light, set it to dark. Else, set it to light. So I'm going to save that and let code sandbox be happy with me. Let it render, and from then I can actually press this button, and the dashboard should also toggle the theme as well. So I believe I've made the designer happy. Give it back to the designer, and now we go on to the next task, and we actually release this product. But after releasing this product, we have user feedback, and the users want more features. And the users tell us that they want to be able to filter data inside the Chartico admin webpage. So the next task that we needed to do is to actually implement this purchase method dropdown. Currently it does nothing, and we want to actually filter a chart based on a field. So the field that we want to filter is the purchase method, and inside the filter purchase method function, all we need to do is use the method setFilter. So first we need to actually get the value that's returned from this dropdown. And to do that, all we need to do is create a new variable called filter value. And this value is actually provided by the target of this event. So if I console log this as well, just to make sure that this dropdown actually does provide us with some sort of value. So let me just refresh. So with this dropdown, if I click on install, I also get this install value. If I click on online, I get online. If I click on this drop down, it provides me a phone. So the next thing that I want to do is set up a filter for specific charts just to save on time. And the chart that I want to filter is the purchase method, the unique customer chart that is displayed here. So I close this console so there's more space. So this is the chart that we want to filter the purchasing methods. So to do this, we need to actually grab the chart first so we can manipulate that specific chart. From that, we can actually create a new variable called const chart. We can grab that chart using the get chart method, so get charts. And also like before, I can't share you this chart ID, but the chart ID is provided inside this gist file called underneath task 4. So if I copy this chart ID and then paste it into get charts as a string, I can grab that chart and manipulate it. And like other methods, it's also a promise, so I need to await for the value. And now I need to actually set a filter for this specific chart. So to do this, I just need to use a set filter method. And inside the set filter, I need to actually have a condition as well. So the condition here is if the filter value is equal to or, we want to provide a filter of just an empty object. Just an empty object. Otherwise, we want to create a filter using the filter value. And we provided it with a specific field. So the field that I want to actually filter upon is just called purchase method. And with this field, I want to actually filter based on the filter value here. So if I save that, let me scroll down and you all can see the condition here. Let me just refresh the page. I'll wait for the dashboard to render. So inside this dropdown, if I select a different purchasing method with that specific chart, I should be able to see all the unique customers that purchased online or using the phone. So in this case, right now the purchasing method, there's 5,000 customers. And if I select on online, we can see how many customers purchased online. Note that you can also set the filter for every single chart in this dashboard using the get all charts method and then running a loop to then set the filter for each of those charts. But just to save time, we're doing it for a specific chart only. There we go. So the purchasing, there's 1,500-ish customers that purchased online. And I just wanted to note that in order to get this to work, I actually had to go into the Atlas Charts UI, go to that specific chart, click on the More button, and then Embed Charts. And I've actually specified that I want to have this field to be filterable, this purchase method field. So now that I've made the users, I'll leave questions to the end, but James, if you could help, that'd be great. So I've allowed users to filter their data and they're happy. The last task is that the product manager asks is that they want only authenticated staff members to view the sales data dashboard. And that's because this dashboard is actually using sensitive customer data. So we want to have this dashboard authenticated in some sort of method. So like James said before, there are a few ways that you can actually access a authenticated dashboard. And that's through either using app services, or formerly known as Realm, using custom JWT token, or using Google Auth. So just to show that show that that we need to use authenticated, we can use an authenticated method, I'm going to turn off this enable unauthenticated access toggle in this dashboard embedding. Your dashboard should now not work. And now I'm going to turn on this authenticated access toggle instead. So that way, only authenticated users can access this dashboard. So click on this toggle. Like before, when I enable this toggle, it provides me with some sort of base URL and dashboard ID. This is the same as before, so we don't need to change anything for that code. I've already set up a authentication provider using a custom JWT token as well. So I'm going to close this, go back to coding environment, and scroll all the way back up. So if I this dashboard, you should see a pretty nasty error because I've only allowed authenticated users to access this dashboard, and I also haven't actually set up my code to do this. So the first thing that I need to do to continue is go into the config.js file and set the enable login value to true. By doing this, we've actually created a somewhat mock login page for this admin web page just to minimize the setup. So when you set that value to true, you should see a username and password form field that lets you put in a username. It's got a rudimentary sign-in process where if you sign in with no credentials, it'll just show an alert saying invalid credentials. But here I want to touch upon the authenticate.js file, which I would like to say, please don't do this in production, because all this does is it mimics the backend. So all this is basically there's some sort of a fake database here with the provided emails. You can log in. Once the user clicks on that sign in button, it tries to figure out, oh, does that email exist? If it exists, then it is valid. And if it's valid, we then create a JWT token as well. So here, all the login credentials is basically the email. There's no password. So if I try to log in with admin@chartco.com and sign in, I should also see a pretty nasty error because I also haven't set up anything yet. So if I log in, I still see an error page, but we need to provide another option inside the dashboard options object. So if I close this error and go back into the index.js file and go back to where we set the dashboard options at the start, the method that we need to use is getUserToken. And this function, this option takes in a function. And this function can be anything. Inside your code, it can call a backend API endpoint to actually to retrieve a proper JWT token or Google Auth or whatever. But in this case, we've actually created a JWT token and we've stored it inside somewhere in your browser called the session storage. So to retrieve that, we need to call window.sessionStorage and then get the item. And in this case, the item is just called JWT token. So lowercase JWT and token with a capital T. And that's it. So if I just save and refresh, you may need to log out first. Try and log in with a value. So here I want to log in with the admin, so admin.chartco.com. And if I sign in, I should also be able to see the dashboard rendered nicely. So there we go, it's loading. Shouldn't see an error. There we go, and no error page. Now, an audience member did mention about injected filters or how we can also provide other filters based on, based on the location or any value inside the database. So if I log out, I'm going to log in as a different user. And inside this authenticate.js file, note that each user has a different location here. So say I want to log in with JSON. Since they're located in New York, just like us. Let's sign in. And inside the dashboard, the data inside that dashboard should only reflect the data that's for JSON because their location is set to New York. This location is just that's inside our data, and it can be anything you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be location, but we thought it'd just be easier to visualize. So once JSON has logged in, the data here should only be related to New York. Usually isn't this slow, so might have some issues at the moment. There we go. So the store location is New York. There's only 501 customers, whereas before we had 5,000. We can see the data specifically only for JSON with the location of New York. And to get this set up, we actually had to utilize injected filters. So I can quickly show you how we did that. So if we go into each charts and go into the chart embedding setting, we've actually provided a little function inside the inject filter per user. And here you can see that if the location inside the JWT token has been set, we'll want to filter all the data using this filter. So in this case, it's the store location field, and we want to filter the store location based on the value inside that JWT token, which is New York in this case. So we've done that for every single chart at the moment. And that is it for injected filters. I'll go back into the presentation, and that's it. You've all completed your first 5 tasks as a Chartico member. I'll go through what we ran through today. So at the start, I'll show you how easy it is to create a publicly linked dashboard using just two clicks. We then embedded the dashboard using an iframe snippet, just so we can have our created dashboard inside a custom web page. Next, we then deleted the iframe snippet and then rendered the dashboard using the SDK. And that way, we could actually have a bunch of control and customizability for the embedded dashboard. We first went through the unauthenticated methods. We utilized the set and get methods, such as the set theme and set filter. We then went through the authenticated methods so that we could only allow authenticated users to access that dashboard. And lastly, we used injected filters to then filter out each chart based on the logged in user. So that's it for the presentation. Is there any other questions that you'd like to ask? Yes. Yes. Glad you said that actually. So we actually have a new
Repeat your
feature.
question.
Sorry. So sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So for these charts to work, right? So you anticipate the chart exists, right?
Yes.
So how do we automate, right? Because we don't want everyone to going, and modifying the UI and creating the charts, right?
Yep.
So we want to version control it, right?
Yep.
So, and we also want to automate the deployments of charts. How would you do that?
Correct. So funny you actually said that because we're actually working on a charts API, so that way you can actually automate that. However, that isn't coming until later on though, but we are looking into that as a new feature.
API would, basically I would use that as part of a build pipeline and call the API and deploy the code. Is that how it's
You
supposed to
should
work?
be able to create a chart and then also set the chart title, chart description, and just programmatically create a chart basically.
Automated. Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Back right. Sorry, we need the mic. I think this session's recorded so then we can hear everyone.
Hello. Yeah. So my question was, is it possible with the SDK to rearrange the charts in the display for, say, a mobile view versus a web view?
Yes, there is. So there's actually an option. If you were to have, if you wanted to make it responsive, if I go back to the index.js file, there's a thing called scale mode, width mode, and I can set it to scale instead. So if I save that, the charts inside that dashboard should scale based on the width of the container.
So I guess you're talking about like rearranging the layout as well?
Yeah, so scaling is good, of course, but I was thinking about the rearranging of the layout.
Yes. So for that question, firstly, from SDK, currently it's not possible. But one thing you might be able to do is to go into the actual dashboard editor. So try to rearrange the layout. Mobile support is not really at the moment there, but it is in our sort of backlog at the moment.
Yep.
Basically, the use case I was thinking is in a multi-tenant environment where you use filter injection to get different data for different customers. Yep. Some customers might have a higher priority of certain types of charts, and so you would want it different per customer, basically.
Yes.
Perhaps you could have two different dashboards, and then if they are a mobile user, render this other dashboard, embed a dashboard instead, which has a layout specifically for mobile users, and another dashboard that's specifically for desktop users instead. But we hear your feedback, so let us know. We do have a booth as well, and we do have a research booth as well for charts, and the designer there would love to hear your feedback, and they will actually try and push forward that feature as well. And yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. So I have a question on the the time series chart you have there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an option? Because I would imagine all these charts are essentially just returning some data in the spreadsheet format that we're then visualizing graphically. Like, would there be an option to export whatever that data was to the end user? So if they wanted a CSV of it, they could just export that, and that's just like an option that they had in the embedded view.
In the embedded view, so.
Oh, in the embedded view. Oh, yeah, okay.
I think there's a chart data.
Oh, yes, so you can actually. So there's a embedding SDK method called get chart data. So if I do this.
So, yeah, so there is a SDK method you can get the data through SDK, where you can then, from then on, you can have some customized code to put it into CSV, but it will be in like a JSON format, the exported data. But if you're talking about a UI, whether people can just click on it and try to do that out of the box from the embedded charts, at the moment it's not supported.
Oh, I see.
But it can be done through code, like through SDK.
Oh, I see. Okay, so let's say you had a chart, but it was only visualizing a subset of the data, and really maybe there was options to there's just more data that was getting hidden because it just wouldn't make sense to visualize it. There wouldn't be an option that just says get all of the data embedded, right? You at that point would probably need to create some kind of other tool that's pulling all of that data that isn't getting captured in the visualization. Am I understanding that correctly?
So you're saying if the chart is filtered, you wanted to get but you actually wanted to get all the data, but not
There's
just
more
the
data,
filtered
yeah, that's getting filtered out. There wouldn't be an option that's just like get data. I guess that is the closest thing, but we need to build more functionality on top of this API to get what the end user would want.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
At the moment, but any feedback is if there's a particular use case that you want.
Yeah,
to
I mean, for our
us.
partners, I mean, having and being able to create these dynamic charts would be amazing, but they would also have this expectation of just getting a CSV file of whatever was visualized for their own manipulation purposes outside of the platform.
Yeah. The only way at the moment would be just to, via the Atlas UIs, grab this.
Yeah, but that's kind of like internal.
Yeah, but that's also internal. You need to actually be logged in to the project, and you can download a CSV file based on the data that's inside that chart as well.
So this view would be great. If we could give that view to for the end user. Yeah.
There is a table chart as well, but yeah, unfortunately we can't export that as a CSV file that you just said
Okay.
you wanted.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
I have a question about the refresh rate. Like, I think there was some refresh that you can set up.
Yes.
What about like real-time refreshes? Like, are you guys working on that? Anything coming up?
Real-time refresh as
Like,
being,
triggers. Like, trigger some changes and then that pushes the data into.
Yeah, so at the moment we're not working on a trigger based on if a new data comes in and then you trigger some sort of webhook or something. We are in the pipeline. We do have triggers based on like data. We can send an email or a Slack notification. That's going to be an upcoming epic. But no, what you said where trigger based on a specific data that comes in, we aren't working on that. But yeah, like we said before.
Yeah.
Tell the project manager and perhaps they might push it forward as well.
the closest thing that we have at the moment that you may be able to do is there's a dot refresh method that you can call to the dashboard, which you can choose at what point of time to refresh that dashboard at your choice rather than waiting for the data age to expire. So, but then of course, the question is, what triggers that manual refresh? Yeah, but to answer your question, at the moment, there's no trigger sort of support from that kind of customization point of view. Yeah.
I think we have done similar to that where we have like server events, for example, like pushing those changes to the UI. I guess this is where you're saying like use this refresh function or pick it up from what needs to be refreshed based on the data that is passed from server. Right.
So it's not based on the data specifically, but say if there's like a refresh button, you can click that refresh button and call this refresh method. That's all that we can provide.
Yeah, or if you have a trigger that can trigger that refresh method, you can do that as well.
It would need to be some sort of custom method.
Gotcha.
Yep. Any other questions?
Hi. So let's say for the filtering functionality, if you had a bunch of embedded filters for a specific chart that you wanted to make available to the end user, are there ways to kind of consolidate that a bit more? Because we only had one filter example. Is the solution like you create a custom UI widget on your front end that encapsulates all those filters in a certain way, and then you kind of like have that get applied to all the charts?
So we do have an embedding page. Is this what you were mentioning? This just got released as well, so I don't know if you have seen this before, but all this is basically for every dashboard you have, it lists all the charts inside that dashboard, and I can then I can actually grab the embedding ID of each chart. I can set the embedding settings for each chart as well, and it's all it's consolidated into a single UI as well.
So the filters are also applied on a per chart
It's on
basis.
a per chart basis, correct?
Right,
Yes.
right.
At the moment.
Yeah.
There's a feature pipeline work we're working on a dashboard level filter. So you
Yeah.
don't have to actually define like filters for each individual chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are building something more to the SDK. So it will be coming in the future.
Yeah. So on the filtering piece, like I know how you can specify, a filter for a certain chart. Usually those filters though are, let's say a chart is like, based off of an aggregation, right? Like I have user IDs for sessions that happen on my platform, but a user ID points to like a user's name and all these other aspects that are relevant to a user. Like how do you kind of translate something that is like create a filter that is in a sense like filtering on a joined collection of maybe the primary chart collection, and make that, like, what's the process of actually getting that to be a human readable filter? So let's say I have two collections, right?
Yeah.
And I want to create a filter. I do an aggregation where I join collection A to collection B, but I want to create a filter off of properties that are only available in collection B. Like, how do you, in my mind, I'm only thinking of collection A properties as those filters. Like, is it possible to make the filters be connected to the joined collection B? I don't know if that makes sense.
So you're saying you have two collections.
Yeah.
You only want to filter fields in a single collection and not worry about what's in these other the other collection that you've joined with as well. So.
Or it's like, what if the filtering options that I want to use are off properties in collection B in the second collection?
And it doesn't exist inside this data source.
Exactly.
Oh. I don't think it's possible.
I don't think it's possible at the moment. But like we can, if you're interested, like happy to discuss this further at the booth.
It's probably more like
this
involved
is like
conversation.
particular use case you're talking about. We can definitely
Yeah.
figure that
So
out
yeah,
in
both
the
of us will
booth.
be at the booth as well.
Yeah.
So we can jot down your name, company, your use case, and we can actually reach out to you later on as well to ask what your use case is and what you were trying to look at.
Where is your booth?
We're at the
It's level 3, right? Level 3 analyze section.
analyze.
So there's a big area as you walk into level floor 3, and then just walk inside. I think it's in the middle.
Yeah. So it'll be like us two, the product manager, and
Designer. Yeah.
and design as well.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for
Any
the
other
question.
questions?
Thank you.
This session. Yeah, that would be really good feedback for all of us. Thank you so much. Let's give everyone a round of applause. Thank you so much.